Kim, do you have a camera icon on the bottom?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's always worked in the past.
Oh,
All right. This is Michelle Rehill. I'm the chairperson of the Northborough Library Board of Trustees. And I officially call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. I will read the governor's notice. This open meeting of the Library Board of Trustees is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive orders of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Library Board of Trustees are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Library Board of Trustees to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comments. Members, I will now do a roll call. When I call your name, please respond. All those present tonight: Mitch Cohen,
Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley,
Mary Crowley, aye.
Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Richard Tucker,
Richard Tucker, aye.
and I, Michelle Rehill, am also here. And with us, we have Library Director Jennifer Bruno. With that out of the way, we will move on to approval of the minutes for the April 12th, 2022 meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a
I'd
motion.
move to approve them.
A second.
All right, thank you. Roll call vote to approve the minutes. Mitch Cohen,
Rich Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley,
Procedural question. I was not at that meeting, so I can approve, I can approve them, correct, Michelle?
you can only approve them if you watched the
Okay, I
broadcast.
pass,
All right, so you abstain.
abstain.
Jim Hogan,
Aye.
Richard Tucker,
Tucker, aye.
and Michelle Rehill says aye. So if the motion carries 4 and 1 with 1 abstention. Now, moving on to,
Like just for a moment, my thanks to Richard for filling in for me on that dreadful evening. But thank you very much. Nice job.
yes, I thank you as well. I appreciate that, Richard. All right, appropriations report. Does anybody have any questions or comments about it at this point?
I can fill you in on a couple of notes. If that's all right. There's a couple of line items that, we're approaching the end of the fiscal year. They look like they're underspent. We're sort of end of the year heavy on some of our contracts. So there's a HVAC. So they switch it twice a year. They switch it from heat to AC and then back. And they clean the filters and they do some service. So I just got the quote for that and it's about $5,500. So that hasn't been invoiced yet. Some of our magazine subscriptions, some databases and some other things are coming up for renewal. So it looks like we're underspent, but we're in pretty good shape.
Excellent.
Did anybody have any questions or concerns?
Not I.
All right. Then we will move on to the library director's report.
I have additional updates on Hoopla if you would like to hear about my ongoing saga with them. I did have a meeting yesterday with, it was my account representative and her manager. So what I had asked for was a list of it's essentially a collection report. I would just like to know what nonfiction titles are in the Hoopla collection that are more than 10 years old. I figured that was a good place to start. They were a little concerned about the size of that report. And also apparently, I've recently learned that no Hoopla customer has ever asked them for a weeding report. So they were a little bit not concerned, but just they're trying to figure out how to do it on their end because no one's ever asked them how to do it. Right. Yeah. The face that Mary is making right now is how I internally feel when I speak to Hoopla. So, well, I will say that customer service wise, they were very responsive to my requests and did indicate a desire to work with me. I am a little floored at the current inability for them to pull that kind of report. And there was a little bit of like, well, why do you want this? So I don't know if they're a little nervous just because of the bad press they've been getting lately. But I did have to explain why nonfiction books that are more than 10 years old are not great for public library collections, which I'm happy to explain why dated information isn't something that we necessarily want to keep in our collection. But I was a little surprised because they market this to libraries exclusively. So I kind of would have thought that it would have been an easier request, but progress is progress. They've promised to get me that report. They understand that it's not the only report I'm going to ask for, because there are some subjects where information becomes dated very quickly. So like technology, even something that's 9 years old, is probably still not great information, not a great resource to have in a popular collection. And then we will get into things that are maybe a little bit more difficult to simply run a report. I picked the age of a collection because it is an easy, it's indexed. So they should be able to just pull that very well. I would have thought that it would have been quicker, but relatively speaking. So once we get into some of the finer points of our collection development policy about peer reviewed and the accuracy of information, I know that like since the last meeting that we've had, I've been getting into a kind of a rabbit hole of badly translated information. So it was written in a different language, run through Google Translator. And what comes out is affectionately known as word salad. So the bottom line is that I would really like to keep the usable portions of Hoopla, the comic books, the audio books, particularly the fiction. It's not overly popular in Northborough. We had 64 uses last month. But again, we haven't really promoted it since we got the service because I've been kind of working through these issues before. I don't want to promote a service that, one, we don't necessarily stand by 100%, and also that I'm thinking about canceling. If they can't come to a satisfactory resolution on this, then I won't keep the service when the contract is up. So we are really hesitant to push it and get people to use it because the information is questionable in some places. So that's where I am with that. They seem like they're really interested in helping, but it's disconcerting that they didn't seem to really understand why.
Excellent explanation.
Jen, what percentage do they have of our entire collection? Are they a large supplier?
So the collection that they supply to us is self-contained, and it's several 100,000 titles total. But I would suggest that it's a very small percentage of our overall accessible collection when you factor in the statewide delivery and our interlibrary loan service. And there is some overlap with, like, particularly the audiobooks and the comic books. There's some overlap with physical holdings in the collection and with Overdrive as well.
Are you still working with other library directors on the dealing with Hoopla?
Yep, my next step with that is to send them a summary of the meeting that I've had, and encourage them to ask for similar information, because it seems to me that if they're going through this process for me, that if they knew that other people were interested, and are hoping for this, because it is something that we've talked about, is being given more control over what's in the collection. I believe that they would make it more of a self-service reporting system where we don't have to necessarily go through our rep and their tech team to pull these reports. So I think our next piece of advocacy will really focus on bringing awareness to the fact that no one's ever asked them for these controls.
Yeah, I worry that if they see this request only coming from one small to mid-sized library and they've never seen it before, that they may be comfortable brushing us off with the risk of losing us as a customer, where if they see this as a cumulative or collaborative effort among a larger number of libraries that are communicating well between each other, they would probably be more responsive.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I would like to keep the service if it makes sense to keep the service, but I fully support that we're probably getting pretty close to the end of the line of it being worth the time to try to figure it out.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an ideological argument with them at this point, but it is getting to the point where if I have to spend too much more time on it, it's taken as long as it has because I do have so many other priorities. And if they're not, I don't know if I believe that I'm the only person that's ever asked for these, because I believe that Jason over in Worcester has asked for something almost identical. But it's one of those things where if they're not going to prioritize our needs, then I'll move on from the service, and we will. I've heard that there's a competitor to Hoopla coming out that works in a similar manner with the streaming, but is much more in line with our collection development. So I haven't had a chance to look into it because I've had a good relationship with Midwest Tape and Hoopla for so long that I felt like it was worth giving them the benefit of the doubt. But if they're not going to move on this, or if it takes, like, if we meet in June and I haven't gotten that report back that I need, then I'll issue the 60-day cancellation notice.
That makes sense. Anybody else have questions about that? Are there any questions about any of the other things from the library director's report?
Question.
Mitch?
The LinkedIn Learning. I'm
I have
excited.
a question about that too.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're looking at that. So the last I checked, which was pretty recently, the Boston Public Library has that as a service, and anyone in Massachusetts can get a Boston Library card. So I've actually used the service that way. So on one hand, I'm thinking, well, why do we have to spend the $1,500 if Boston is doing it for us? On the other hand, this would give us, I think, a lot more ammunition to go ahead and really market this. It's a really, really good service. I paid for it in the past, and I've had employers who have paid for it on behalf of employees. So I think it's really good. So either way, I'm glad that we can offer it to Northborough residents. So I'm curious as to your take on the value of us spending the money versus sending people over to Boston.
I would prefer we send people to Boston. I went to my human resource director, and he said that the objective is interesting, that we would need this at the library. If someone is putting a profile on LinkedIn, it's free to use. But through the library, because of the discrete requirements of library technology, it would benefit us to go through Worcester because, I mean, through Boston. That's my take. That it's a social board, it's a business center, but what has happened now, engineers and share coding and other specific jobs have their own LinkedIn type availability to them. So that's a lot of money for something that might be used by only a few people, from my perspective, from what the little research that I did.
So there is a distinction between LinkedIn Learning and LinkedIn, the social network. Yes. So LinkedIn Learning used to be lynda.com, which a lot of libraries did subscribe to. To your point about the Boston Public Library, it's similar with some of their other resources with, like they do offer Hoopla and some other resources with their e-card. We have to be very careful in how we advertise because of the way that their contracts work. So, for example, we can't link it directly from, like, we can put something up that says you can get an e-card, but it's in a way that is very carefully worded so that they're not in breach of contract.
I tried to look it up. I tried to read what other libraries have it. My question is to you, have people been asking for this?
So people have been asking for courses that will help them advance their career. So whether that's something as simple as Excel or, for example, so, and some of the development, resume, cover letter, interview kind of stuff, networking, some of the things that we've been doing through the Job Seekers Grant.
That's, that was my fear, that we're starting to duplicate things. So
it's not so much duplicative. It's we can't offer enough live courses to satisfy the needs. So there's always somebody who can't make it on a certain night or needs something.
I appreciate that, but my thing would be tread carefully. It's a lot of money, and I personally don't think it would be worth it.
Okay.
I'd have to respectfully disagree, Mary. I think,
Mitch
not
disagrees
that
too.
it's pocket change, but like I said, Mitch has used it. And I think it's a good resource because, as Jen said, you can't put direct links through BPL. And because it's something that goes naturally with the Northborough Job Seekers program.
Right. Absolutely.
So I just think it supports that. So, and if
part of the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And if we know that we have this in our budget, in the non-print budget, especially, I think that it would be a good thing for us to give that a try.
One of the other sort of thought processes behind offering something like this is, I had been listening to some of the ARPA discussions that have been going on in town, specifically was it the Northborough Guide that ran sort of the open public idea generating forum. And one of the things that they did mention was helping small businesses, helping people with their careers. So this is a small way that we would be able to
No, I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying, I just wanted my opinion to be heard. That's it.
Fair.
I mean, I'll support
Absolutely
it 100% if it's, but.
And I recently, just today, I was able to speak with Donna, who is managing our LSTA grant. We have about $1,400 left in that grant that would be able to go towards this. So out of our municipal budget, it'll only be about $1,000.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, so it becomes a bit of a low risk, trial.
Do we get good data as far as on how many patrons use it and how much?
I'm sure they have great analytics. We have a trial next week and I'll make sure to ask
Okay.
Great.
for usage.
Going back to the director's report, and I just don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, it went off my screen. Is the parking, is that on there? The,
Parking lot.
yeah,
You said you were gonna have the parking lot sealed.
Yes, that is
I have a-
tentatively scheduled for later this week, but it is supposed to rain, so I don't have anything confirmed.
okay, so I have a question, two things. I mean, I understand the public has to come in and out. In the past, when the parking lot has been closed, and again, had to be closed for specific reasons, we asked the church, Trinity Church, if we can use their lot. We hired a policeman to make sure that if people were coming to the library, they could cross the street, even though there's a walk thing there. So I don't know. My question is, have you looked at some contingencies if people want to come to the library? And are you going to send out, I don't know, somehow information through the town website? I love the information from the town, so I think it might be beneficial to do something like that. That's it.
So I wasn't aware that the church could offer parking, so I will reach out to them tomorrow.
Yeah, you have to reach out to them.
To
So it's
ask.
very,
Yeah, no, I won't. I would never just
yeah.
assume. And as soon as I can get a confirmation, I'll ask Andy to post it and push that out, and we'll put it on our website and everything too. I'm afraid it's going to be a little bit short notice, just based on the weather and the confirmation.
And I apologize if this was up last month and I wasn't at that meeting, so I should have really reviewed that, but.
No, I was only made aware of it last week.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Go on that. All right. If there are no other questions about the director's report, we will move on to the new business. And new business item number 1, appointment of the nominating committee. Mary Crowley, Jim Hogan, and Richard Tucker will be the nominating committee. You'll be meeting on May 10th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. Your charge is to bring a slate forward for the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary of the Board of Trustees. And you need to provide that to us so that we can have it on the agenda to vote in June. I think I covered all of the details. Did I leave anything out? Oh, righty. And then the report of the Building and Grounds Committee is?
We haven't met yet. We have had a couple of things tentatively scheduled. There were some staffing conflicts and other things to get things scheduled. That's fine. So we are meeting, is it Monday at 5?
Correct.
That's correct.
Mhm.
So May 9th at 5 p.m.
Yep.
At the library.
You at
Only
the
a natural disaster will cancel this one.
in person. Yes. Okay.
Watch the paving take place that day, and we'll have to walk
Oh,
over.
geez.
We'll have to walk to Trinity Church. Oh, no. All right. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board at this time? If not, the date of the next meeting will be June 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Will we still be meeting by Zoom? I'm going to say yes. Because we have until July, right?
It's either the middle or end of July. I've forgotten which.
Okay, either way, it's July. I don't have to, we're good for June, so it will be on Zoom. And if there is no other business, no other questions, concerns, comments, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the
So
meeting.
moved.
Thank you, Mitch. Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Richard. Otherwise, we'd have to be here all night. Okay, I will do the roll call. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting? Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Mary Crowley,
I'm in favor.
thank you. Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Richard Tucker,
Richard Tucker, aye.
and I, Michelle Rehelt, also agree. The meeting is adjourned at 7:28 PM. And just so that I don't forget, good night, Kate.